It's great to have Amir Lakhani here for Future Work.
Hey, thank you. It's great being here.
You know what? How long have we?
Not as long, but I feel like I've known you forever now. I think we're of kindred spirit. Less than a year, but I feel like I've known you forever.
Yeah, so it's fantastic for ethical hacking. I did a lookup, and you came. I guess you're on the internet as Dr. Chaos. What is Dr. Chaos? Where did that come from?
Well, so I can't take full credit for that. It's kind of my hacker handle, but if you have a true hacker handle, it's given to you. It's like a call sign, like in the Air Force. You don't pick it yourself, so you just better hope that someone gives you a good one. But the way I got mine is I used to do a lot of conferences where I said forget about PowerPoints. Everyone sees a lot of PowerPoints. Let's just do live hacking. Let's do live attacks and see if that's okay. And got people excited about that, and they started calling me Dr. Chaos, and just kind of ran with it. And I remember the old Nintendo video game Dr. Chaos. I used to like that. And there's Captain Chaos from South Park. I was like a fan of that. So I was like, the domain's available. Let me start a blog, and it just kind of went from there.
Also interesting. So given to you by people, right? Now it's stuck with you.
Yeah.
And do you use it everywhere you go?
I don't, but like even when I don't use it, other people use it for me. So I've gone to conferences, I've gone to done speaking engagements, in classes where like I don't go out and say it, and then all of a sudden I'm reading some brochure and they're saying, "Hey, Dr. Chaos is speaking." I was like, "You just have to go with it."
Yeah. So ever since you and I have met and you've been teaching, I don't know, I've seen you go different parts of the world. Not only are you from a different place, but you also go to different countries and solve a lot of problems. Right? You're all over the place, and you're traveling, constantly traveling. Talk to us about how do those come about, and what do you do when you go travel?
Yeah, so first of all, I can tell you, over the last several years, I've done a lot of air miles. I've kind of hit every level of, most of the places, American Airlines, Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, like, the platinum exclusive hidden levels sometimes, which is not always a good thing. Sometimes it makes you sad thinking,
Sure,
I'm
sure.
spending so much time on the road, right? But it's fun. Like first of all, I enjoy traveling. I've been to almost every continent on this planet, so that's always fun. And I'll tell you, like the way I started off with it is because I always wanted to be in front of problems. I wanted to kind of be able to solve the best problems. So I started off like saying no to like not saying no to anything. There was a problem that no one wanted to tackle. I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And I really feel like a lot of my success came that way is because I wasn't afraid to try it. I was like, listen, I know I can use my experience even if I haven't done anything, and try and solve the problem. And of course, a lot of times it was easy because no one else was willing to try something new either, and I just wasn't afraid. So it gave me these opportunities to travel.
So what kind of problems are those? I get the miles, I get the hidden I guess points and hidden memberships, but where do these problems come from, and how do you choose them?
Yeah, so I would say the problems choose you a lot of times, and
Sure.
you choosing the problems. Sometimes they're very easy, right? Sometimes it's like just basic things from companies that just need some experience, right? Whether that's experience in pen testing, in looking at compliance, looking at network architecture. But the more interesting things is like I think when I get involved with governments in different countries, what we call certs in different countries as well, working on like human life problems. So I got involved with law enforcement, with multiple law enforcement agencies, in a good way when I say get involved.
Sure.
Across the world on helping find missing children. And my expertise came in on basically looking at OSINT, what we call open source intelligence data
Sure.
over the internet, including the darknet data, all the illegal activity was happening and things that we don't like to talk about. But at least I was able to use this information and show law enforcement how to get to this information and create databases where we could actually track missing children and even in some cases recover missing children. So in those cases, I felt like it was a really good thing. In other places, I get to go in a lot of advisory boards on how technology should be behaving. For example, I'm on several international advisory boards again around the ethics of AI and how AI should be used from an ethical standpoint and how we should design and use that in government agencies. So that's always exciting, and that's what also keeps me traveling and away from my family because I feel like the greater good is worth it sometimes.
I'm sure your kid misses you, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. But
And what, he's a 2-year-old?
he's two. Well, it's almost 2.5 in a couple months, and yeah, he's definitely keeping me on my toes, and I think my appetite for traveling is becoming less because of that, of course.
I can believe it. My kids, of course, are 26 and 23 years old. So I was doing exactly the same thing you did when I was when they're 3 years old. I was traveling.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something about dark security, or I think I read it on your Dr. Chaos website. Dark security movement investigations on the internet. Is that what you were talking about just a few minutes ago?
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a buzzword, but what occurs is there's a lot of bad guys, and they're in several places on the internet. So sometimes they're on forums, Russian forums, forums in North Korea, like these different places that need access, and you need to be creative as a good guy on how to get access to the bad guys, right? Sometimes there are private Telegram groups, private WhatsApp channels, private Signal groups. But what we do is, as researchers, we create fake accounts, essentially. We call them sock puppets. That's the industry term. And we create these accounts, we age these accounts, and have access to different areas where the bad guys are talking, and we try and learn from their way of thinking, their techniques, their targets, who they want to attack and why, and hopefully learn enough to be able to create defensive solutions against them.
Yeah, I'm reading here offensive counter defense measures. So it's kind of mouthful. Offensive counter defense measures. So is this a good guy trying to be a bad guy, the sock puppet one that you just talked about?
You could say that in some ways, but more accurately is making the bad guys, you're making it very expensive and time consuming for them to attack. So there's the defense side, basically stop an attack. But the offensive side is, and you have to be careful on the offensive side because there's a lot of laws, and then you don't want to attack the wrong person, right? Attribution is another thing you have to look out for. In general, you want to make it very expensive and time consuming for them to attack the good guys and really waste their time. And once they do that, they'll probably move on to an easier target, but hopefully we're hurting them in a way to make their lives a little harder as well, where they can't use those resources even against additional targets.
For a common man like us, they're trying to figure out how to be a bad person.
Right.
And for you as a researcher, you probably will spend a lot of time researching how things operate, and these techniques are changing every day.
Absolutely. So a lot of times, you're just looking at techniques, you're looking at what the bad guys are doing, you're trying to understand them, you're trying to get into their frame of mind. It's not only a technical problem you're trying to solve, but also like a human problem, almost a psychological problem. You need to get into their heads as well. And there's a lot of reasons, right? People do cyber attacks for hacktivism, obviously for financial gain, which is probably the most common reason. There could be political reasons, there could be cyber warfare, and also there's a lot of different reasons why cyber attacks occur to different clients who are different in different industries. And at the end of the day, you're still trying to stop a bad guy essentially from exploiting the system.
Is there a problem that you solved that meant a lot? You still find a lot more meaning in there, and you want to solve it even at a larger scale. Is there a problem like that you're near and dear?
Yeah, there's a few of them, but I would say what is really near and dear to me is really understanding that we have limitations and trying to encourage and motivate, I would say, other people to get into the industry, and that's why I think we enjoy working together, is because training, I think, is very important. It's about giving back to the community. It's not what you can accomplish. Obviously, the things that we do to help the children, as I was telling you about, help people recover from their personal damage, that's really important because people's lives are at stake, right?
Sure.
But the things that we do to essentially help and secure homeland security, that's or the security of the homeland, not specific talking about a specific agency, but just in general, that's obviously really important, right? Safety is important. Right. But I think at the end of the day, we have limitations. We also have a very finite limit on the amount of work we can accomplish in our lifetimes, and that's going to be gone. So I think training people, training the next generation, and also encouraging them to train the next generation and encourage people after them is really important. And
so I heard you say OSINT, and I heard you say missing children. That's a meaningful one?
Yes,
that's super meaningful. Are there others like that?
There's a few of them. Like I said, I was involved in some charity projects where we were basically using cybersecurity in different villages around Asia, specifically in parts of Pakistan and Bangladesh, where we were kind of helping them get knowledge in different villages and places where they just didn't have access, that sometimes not even infrastructure access, but we were trying to get them on the internet to like help educate them and help change their world. That was a very important process, and that actually increasing their awareness in educational technology ended up helping them in other parts of the world, including getting other parts of their lives, including getting fresh water, safe food to eat. So that was a project I worked on for a number of years. On top of that, a few other projects, like I said, worked on is I worked with a entity or organization, charity organization that works with inner cities in major U.S. cities. Kids that have grown up in violent homes with drug problems, they really would never have thought themselves as IT professionals, and that was really life changing for me because they got excited about that. It's been a number of years since I've been working with that group, and a lot of them they're still in contact with me saying, "Hey, I've been working at a job for 10, 15 years. I have kids now. They're moving on to college and stuff, and they thought they would never essentially get out of the slums or the ghetto, and it's changed their lives. That was a really thing that I took to my heart.
Interesting. A couple of other things I noted before I got onto this recording. It says you're in Forbes magazine that describe you as a blogger, infosec specialist, and you're a superhero.
What to do now? There's so many good content out there, and I've kind of moved on a little bit, but at least about 10 years ago, I think I was like blogging around a lot, writing a lot, got a lot of social media followers. That was one of the first, I guess, cybersecurity influencers that were out there, and it's kind of a sad thing to say at this point,
Sure.
as the words leave my mouth. But like I said, time has moved on, and I've gotten busy since then.
On a couple of shows, right? I guess you wrote an episode, or you contributed to a couple of shows.
Yes. So I've been working. So I've did some consulting on a number of different TV shows, also some documentaries and other things as well. I'm not sure if I can name which ones.
The most notable ones you're gonna just hold it together.
Yeah. But I'm sure if you Google me, you'll find the stuff. They're well known stuff out there, and mostly it was more. Instead of like coming in as a writer, it's more about like either tech skills or tech culture. Because in the tech world, we also have our own culture that we bring in. Things that we like, things that we find funny, or dark humor, and it was adding in those little pieces. And like I said, I got involved with the right people at the right time.
I guess you just have to be showing up in the right places.
Yeah.
And then when you do, people will seek you out for cybersecurity work, or what kind of work would that be?
Yeah, so I do want to bring up so I love what you said is showing up at the right places. I think that is at least 50% of the battle is to just show up and be part of that conversation. A lot of times, yes, cybersecurity, but the way I got into cybersecurity was to show up, right? I mean, I started off like, learning about IT, learning about networking. And then when people ask like, how do we stop this? How do we do things? As I said, it's just showing up. That is definitely have to work out there. But yes, like my job right now is cybersecurity. My job is to essentially, I'm a cybersecurity researcher, a threat hunter.
Sure.
What that means is like, I look for what the bad guys are doing. I follow the bad guys. I want to know like who they're attacking, why they're attacking, what are the attacks? Is it a ransomware attack?
Sure.
How does it work? What are the techniques behind it? How did they get into systems?
Right.
What was initial access? How did they get persistence on the system? How did they evade all the security? So I take all those techniques and then I use that to either find the bad guys in new places using the same techniques, or I try and essentially write code, like usually machine learning models, to detect the same type of techniques.
You write code?
Well, I write machine learning models, which I would say there's a difference between a true developer and being able to put things together in Python and detect things.
So you're the latter.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So you wrote a book.
Yes.
It's pen testing with Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, so I've actually written several books, but pen testing with Raspberry Pi is one of them. I wrote one on data center security, one on web application testing with Kali Linux, and as soon as I finished some things out, my publisher is I wrote a children's book for my son on computer security. So it's definitely a children's story for a toddler, but
So where would people buy it?
well, Amazon. You just look up my name on Amazon.
And your name would be?
Yeah, Amir Lakhani, Aamir, Lakhani, Lakhan, as in Nancy, I.
Okay, Amir Lakhani, also known as Dr. Chaos, FYI, right? And so talk to me about, we're going to change gears a bit. Safeguarding physical environments. We're not just talking about, internet, we're talking about the physical environments, the data center environments. where you have to protect those too.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So, part of security, part of cybersecurity is also the physical environment. So most of the time, if you have physical access to a system, you can usually gain full access to software on a system. Not all the time, and yes, there is a little more details behind that.
Sure.
As simple as it sounds. Having physical security is also very important. We were actually doing a pen test one time where we were testing the security of a very large bank, and we were having a hard time getting in. So we literally just walked in to the data center while they were doing some maintenance work and cleaning, and we unracked a couple machines and took them with us, and then we started doing the analysis after we took out the hard drives and stuff like that. And that was way too easy to get. It sounds very unrealistic because it should be unrealistic to be able to walk in and do that. But we took advantage of like basically change cycles. They were in the middle of a data center move as well. They had like some third parties come in and they were already moving boxes, and we literally just walked in and grabbed the service we wanted and took that. So I learned very early on that physical security is still part of security in the cyberspace, and if you don't have physical security, you can.
Did you ever return them?
Did I return them? I don't remember at this point.
Okay.
I don't know. They could be sitting at home right now in a closet. No, we did return them. We absolutely did.
Oh, fantastic. For those that are thinking about cybersecurity, we talked about OSINT, we talked about physical security, we talked about just get started, reverse engineering. If you're interested in threat hunting, interested in threats, there's so many ways to enter the field of cybersecurity. Are there things that anybody who's listening to this should be thinking about in addition to what we just talked about?
Yeah, I would say get immersed into the world. One of the advices I give people is like listen to all the popular podcasts that are out there, all the popular blogs that are out there, and you can Google what are the top cybersecurity podcasts, what are the top cybersecurity blogs, and get immersed into that world. Start understanding it. Hopefully, start getting excited about it. So my typical Sundays involve getting up at like 4 a.m. every day on Sundays, and I usually spend like at least 3-4 hours just reading up on blogs, catching up on podcasts, just listening, and I enjoy it. This is not work for me. It's really relaxing. I enjoy it. I'm a coffee drinker, but I do drink a little bit of Coke while enjoying that, and it's like watching a movie for me.
No chai.
What?
No chai.
Chai or tea, yeah. Sometimes a little bit of that as well. So my wife makes really really good chai, and so I usually wait for her to wake up. If I tap her at 4 a.m. while I'm doing that,
there's no chai for you.
There won't be any chai for me. I could be in a world of trouble, so I'll wait until she gets up. On Sunday she gets up a little later.
So what's the most recent podcast that you heard? I mean, is there one favorite of yours?
I absolutely have a favorite, and I would recommend this to everyone. And it's actually not a specific cybersecurity podcast. It's the Daily Tech News Show with Tom Herod. So Tom Herod, I've been a big fan of his. I've been following him for years. He started off in the CNET days, but this podcast is just general about how people use consumer technology all over their lives on everything from phones to smart devices, also to security. And the nice thing about that is everything in technology has a cybersecurity component for it, whether they mention it or not. Anything we find useful in our lives has a cybersecurity component, because anything we find useful in our lives is probably some value for us to keep that information, make sure it's not public all over the world. Sure. And there's probably some value for someone to exploit that. And it's just a fun podcast, a good group of guys, it seems like. From a cybersecurity standpoint, I will tell you, I definitely enjoy Darknet Diaries, and that's one of my favorite ones. A lot of good friends, a lot of good, I would consider they're like friends so close, but very, very good people and great stories about the darknet and the dark internet movement and really how the bad guys do things. You will find it more entertaining than a movie.
So this was yesterday. There was a pleasant surprise for you that my phone did not have location turned on. And if I had turned it on, you said there was going to be a lot of information in there. Well, what kind?
Yeah, so basically most phones keep, in some way keep a location history. So it's not just like you using your GPS app, but it's like, where you go. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like some carriers want that to figure out like where you're going, or you could have weak signals, so they could be sending telemetry. Some applications want to do that. Some applications like Google Maps will actually, in some cases create a whole map of your timelines of where you've gone to check in, sometimes for social media, right? Sure. But it's also in some cases there have been cases where attackers have exploited that and gone your location history. So yes, I may I may want to like check out your location history, see where you're going. Obviously, this could endanger your personal security, right? If I know you're,
Sure.
always going home at like 1 a.m. From work, from your job or to a place,
Sure.
I was like, hey, you know what? That's maybe a good time to like attack you or get you a loan. That could be something dangerous. I was actually talking to a reporter one time, and like I showed her how location history was so easy on the phone, and they were telling me like, hey, we've actually had people that have not liked our stories and have threatened us and showed up at our house and workplaces and places we thought they were private, and
Sure.
we basically were able to get the location history from different places on their phone. And there's a lot of ways to get that, like through phishing emails, and they can grab data out. Some phone, some data just leaks on the phone if they have physical access to your phone, or that you might download it and get location history.
So for a common man, that's scary.
It should be scary for anyone. It's scary for me too.
Conferences. You speak at conferences. Are there any coming up in 2025 where you're going to?
So I will be at a lot of conferences. I don't know which ones I'm going to speak at yet, but I am always at RSA, the RSA conference. It's usually probably March, April time period in San Francisco. I'm always at Black Hat and DEF CON. We call that cybersecurity boot camp, because there's actually 3 or 4 different conferences and
Sure.
they all run together in Vegas that week. It's usually the first week of August. So I'm always out there. And there's definitely a few others. So I'll probably be at the first conference, which is, I believe, in Denmark this year, which is for incident response. There's usually a virus bulletin, which is a malware conference. So there's a few others I'll be at there. I do recommend people, by the way, always trying to look up a local B, like as in boy, B-Sides. B-Sides is a brand of conferences, and its whole idea is to like basically make conferences accessible, a lot of times free for students, or very, very cheaply priced, and a lot of good talks, some of the best talks, and great way of meeting people regionally. Every big city has B-Sides. So we're in Dallas. There's a B-Sides in Dallas. There's actually one in Austin. There's one in Houston. There's one in Oklahoma. There's one in Atlanta. Pretty much every city, and all over the world, like everywhere in the world. So if you just go to B-Side in the name of your city, you'll probably find one. There's usually once a year.
That's we're going to stop there. We're going to end this podcast right there. It's fantastic to have you here. I love what you do on a daily basis. You just said you wake up at 4 a.m. and I know there's a conversation about what you do during the day, right? We've talked about this. Students love you, right? They learn a lot from you. I know you teach certified ethical hacking. You taught certified network defender. You taught Fortinet stuff. You are a teacher, a researcher, and more. For all that and more, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.